Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down the big stories. And today we are digging into a huge one. It's got everything: a massive pandemic contract, a high-profile political figure, and a 9-figure bill owed to the British taxpayer that honestly might never get paid. Let's get right into it. So let's start with the big number. £145,600,000. That is the absolutely staggering amount of money that a single company, PPE MedPro, now owes the public for a government contract that went sideways. And yeah, the UK government is not holding back. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has basically said the company sold substandard kit and just pocketed taxpayer cash. He's vowing to get that money back, especially since a major payment deadline has just been missed. Okay, so you have to be asking, how on earth does a deal for protective gear spiral into a $145 million debt? Well, we're going to connect the dots. Let's unpack the timeline, the big legal fight, and of course, the financial mess left behind. First things first, let's just break down that massive number. Because it's not just a simple fine. Nope, it's a mix of court-ordered damages and some serious, fast-growing interest. Right, so this debt is really a moving target. It kicked off with a £122 million ruling from the High Court. Then another £23.6 million in interest got tacked on top. And now there's an 8% annual penalty being added. That means this number is getting bigger every single day it isn't paid. To really get what's going on, we have to rewind the clock. Let's go all the way back to the height of the pandemic in 2020. It was a time of national crisis, and decisions were being made incredibly fast. So the company right in the middle of all this is PPE MedPro. Now it's a consortium, and it's led by Doug Berriman, who is the husband of Baroness Mone. And here's the kicker. The firm was awarded a huge government contract right after Baroness Mone herself recommended it. This timeline really shows you how it all went down. It starts with that big contract in 2020. 2 years go by, the government sues. But just look at how fast things moved recently. On September 30th, the company goes into administration. The very next day, the High Court rules against them. And then bam, on October 15th, they miss the payment deadline. So what was this whole legal fight even about? Well, believe it or not, the entire $145 million mess really hinged on one single word in the contract. And that word was sterile. The government's whole case was that the 25 million gowns PPE MedPro supplied just weren't sterile. And because of that, they argued, the gowns didn't meet the contract's requirements for use in healthcare settings. So this created a total standoff. On one side, you have the government saying these gowns were not fit for purpose. On the other, you have PPE MedPro insisting, hey, we delivered exactly what we promised. There was no middle ground, so this was always going to end up in court. Okay, so the court made its decision, and it was pretty clear-cut. But it's the timing of what the company did just before the verdict, that raises some really, really interesting questions. On October 1st, a High Court judge sided with the government. The ruling officially confirmed that some of the gowns were in fact not sterile, and that's what triggered the huge repayment order we've been talking about. But here is the major twist. Just 24 hours, one day, before that judgment came down, PPE MedPro entered administration. Now that's a crucial legal move. It basically freezes the company's assets and puts it under the control of outside managers. It makes it much, much harder for anyone, including the government, to collect any money they're owed. Which brings us to the biggest question of all, right? The company's in administration, the payment deadline is gone, so what happens now? Are we, the taxpayers, ever going to see that money again? And this, right here, is where you see the real problem. The company owes the public over £145 million. But if you look at its own books, its net assets are worth just over £666,000. I mean, the gap between what's owed and what's there is just astronomical. Despite how bleak that looks, the government is insisting this fight is not over. The health secretary has come out very publicly saying they will pursue the company with everything we've got to try and get those funds back. And believe me, this story is far from finished. That debt is still growing every single day. The National Crime Agency is now officially investigating the whole thing, and the political pressure on Baroness Mone is ramping up, with serious calls for her to be removed from the House of Lords. So it all leaves us with this final, pretty critical question. When a company can rack up a massive debt to the public and then essentially just fold right after a court judgment, who is really being held accountable? And what's to stop something just like this from happening all over again?